Before the Flood, the Fall of Atlantis. Chapter 5, The Olive Branch Token. The moon hung low over the olive groves of Calliste, a silver blade suspended in the velvet dark. Its light filtered through the twisted branches like pale judgment, casting long skeletal shadows across the dusty path that wound from the arena back toward the clustered stone homes of Leon's village. The night air carried the sharp scent of crushed herbs and the faint, acrid residue of Pyrrhon's earlier flames, lingering reminders of the day's violence. Leon walked alone now, his bronze shield slung across his back, the short spear balanced in the crook of his arm. His body ached from the melee, but it was not the honest weariness of mortal exertion that troubled him. Beneath his skin something stirred, a heat that was not quite fever, a whisper that was not quite his own thoughts. Kyon had not spoken during the fight. The Watcher waited, patient as stone, coiled in the hidden dimensions of Leon's bloodline. But the power had brushed against him anyway, faint blue embers flickering at the edges of his vision when he drove his spear into an opponent's thigh, or when he wrenched a man's arm until the bone snapped like dry kindling. The crowd had cheered his raw strength. His teammates had clapped him on the shoulder afterward, calling him blessed of the Guff. Yet Leon felt only the first cold touch of dread. He paused at the crest of a low hill where the path overlooked the dark ribbon of the sea. Far to the west, beyond the horizon he could not see, lay Atlantis. The name itself tasted of salt and blood on his tongue. Rumors had reached even this remote Tanaju village. 10 rings of marble and gold, Nephilim kings who ruled as living gods, arenas where men and women bartered their souls for greater mutations. And now the great tournaments, blood for thrones, thrones for dominion, dominion for damnation. A soft footfall behind him made him turn, hand instinctively tightening on the spear. Lysandros emerged from the shadows, his lean frame wrapped in a simple wool cloak. The Pharmacia user's pale face looked almost ghostly in the moonlight, his sharp eyes reflecting the silver glow. A satchel of vials clinked gently at his hip. "You left the victory feast early, brother," Lysandros said quietly. His voice carried the measured cadence of one who spent more time among scrolls than men. Stelios was pouring the strong wine and boasting of how we'll claim glory in the Western Isles. Pyrrhon nearly set the roof ablaze with excitement. Even Boreas smiled, once. Leon offered a tired half-smile. "I needed air. The arena. It felt smaller than it should have, as though the walls were closing in." Lysandros nodded, joining him at the hill's edge. He withdrew a small clay vial from his satchel, uncorked it, and inhaled the faint herbal scent before offering it. Calming draft, no Pharmacia tricks, just lavender, chamomile, and a touch of willow bark. It will ease the ache without clouding the mind. Leon accepted it, but did not drink. Instead, he turned the cool vial in his calloused fingers. "You believe the rumors, then, about Atlantis and the tournaments?" "I believe the world is filling with violence exactly as the old stories warn," Lysandros replied. He gazed westward, his expression distant. "The orders promised power. The Watchers delivered it, through covenants sealed in the blood of daughters and the mutual imprecations on Hermon. But every gift carries its price. My own mind, it frays at the edges some nights. Memories blur. I see things that are not there, shadows with too many joints, whispers that sound like my mother's voice, though she has been dust for 3 generations. He shook his head sharply, as if dispelling a phantom. "Yet I joined you today not for glory, Leon. I joined because I have begun to suspect the Creator's vision is the only sane path left in this mad age." Leon studied the scholar. In the arena, Lysandros had moved like a ghost, pinches of powder thickening the air around enemies' legs, accelerating rust on their spearheads, brewing quick salves that knit shallow wounds, subtle, deadly, and already costing him. A distant cry echoed from the village below, someone laughing too loudly, too long. The sound twisted into something almost like a scream before fading. Violence was never far, even here. That night, sleep claimed Leon reluctantly in the small stone house he shared with his aging parents. The walls were thick, reinforced with timber from the ancient forests, but they could not keep out the dreams. He stood once more in the arena of his vision, but this time the sand was gone. In its place churned a vast, churning sea. Waves the color of midnight rose like living mountains, crowned with white foam that hissed like serpents. 10 concentric rings of marble and gold protruded from the water like the fingers of a drowning giant. From the central palace rose a colossal figure, Poseidon, the runt Nephilim mocked by his Egyptian kin. 14 feet of warped flesh and crystal points, aquamantic power surging around him in a vortex of seawater and blood. The giant king roared defiance at the heavens. The body does not fail, the spirit does not hunger. We are gods. But the sea answered. It rose higher, summoned not by Mancy, but by something greater. The rings cracked, marble shattered, gold melted into the depths, screams of thousands, warriors, priests, sacrificial victims, even the Nephilim kings, rose in a cacophony that shook the hidden dimensions themselves. Then a voice, clear and terrible in its gentleness, spoke directly into Leon's soul. Not through blood covenant or pharmacia illusion, not the rumbling hunger of Kyon. This was the Creator. Leon, son of Tanaju, I have seen the corruption. I have heard the cries of the innocent. Go to Atlantis, enter the tournaments, defeat the wicked sons of Poseidon, cast the entire sinful city into the sea. Walk not in the power of the Watchers, but in obedience to me. The faithful remnant endures, judgment comes, but mercy remains for those who reject the covenants. Leon woke with a gasp, sitting bolt upright on his pallet. Sweat drenched his tunic, his forearms burned, not with blue flame, but with a pure, holy heat that left no scars. He pressed his hands to his face and found tears there. Dawn had not yet broken when he rose. He slipped from the house and made his way to the small family shrine, tucked behind the olive press. A simple stone altar where his parents still offered the first fruits of their meager harvest to the Creator, refusing the blood covenants that had enriched so many neighboring bloodlines. There, beneath a rough-hewn wooden carving of an olive branch, Leon knelt. "Creator of all," he whispered, voice trembling, "if this vision is truly from you, give me a sign. I am no prophet like Enoch, no man of renown. I carry the blood of a covenant I did not choose. How can I stand against Nephilim giants and the full might of 3 orders?" The wind stirred the olive leaves above the altar. One small branch, heavy with unripe fruit, snapped cleanly and fell into Leon's open hands. He stared at it, simple, unadorned, alive. He tucked the olive branch token into his tunic, close to his heart. By mid-morning, the team had gathered again in the shade of an ancient olive tree near the training grounds. Stelios lounged against the massive trunk, his barrel chest rising and falling steadily. The ritual scars across it glowed faintly even in daylight. Pyrrhon paced restlessly, flames flickering at his fingertips before he quenched them with visible effort. Boreas sat cross-legged, eyes closed, a gentle breeze playing through his wind-tousled hair. Lysandros stood apart, scribbling notes on a wax tablet. Leon approached, the olive branch token warm against his skin. He told them everything, the dream, the voice, the command. He left nothing out. Not the vision of sinking Atlantis, not the weight of divine mandate. not his own fear that using Kyon's gifts would make him the very monster he was sent to destroy. Silence fell when he finished. Stelios spoke first, his gruff voice heavy with loyalty. "I have walked with you since we were boys, Leon. I've seen the hunger in my own bones, the way they grow heavier each time I invoke my Watcher. If the Creator calls you to this, I stand with you. Tank the blows. Let the giants break themselves upon me, even if my body fails as the order of Guff foretold." Pyrrhon stopped pacing. His burn-scarred arms flexed, and for once the fire in his eyes seemed tempered by something deeper than recklessness. "I've burned pieces of myself away for power. Felt Ra'av's hunger gnawing. If there's a way to turn that fire against the corruption itself, I'm in. Let them cheer the winged dog of Tanaju. We'll give them a show they'll never forget. Right before we drown the whole cursed island." Boreas opened his pale gray eyes. "The air itself carries the stench of Atlantis even from here. Poisoned breath. I feel it in my lungs already, but wind can carry judgment as easily as it carries corruption. I will go." Lysandros capped his stylus. A faint, cynical smile touched his lips, but his eyes were clear. "My mind fractures daily. Illusions bleed into memory. Yet, in the quiet moments when the Pharmacia haze lifts, I remember the old stories of the line of Seth, of Enoch walking with God until he was no more. If obedience is the narrow path, I will walk it with you, Leon, and I will poison the right throats along the way." They clasped forearms in the old Tanaju oath, blood and sweat mingling, a covenant not of watchers but of chosen purpose. The next days blurred into frantic preparation. Leon's parents, simple farmers of the faithful remnant, wept but did not forbid him. His mother pressed a small pouch of dried figs and barley bread into his hands. His father laid a calloused palm on his shoulder. "The Creator sees. Walk humbly, son, even when the blue flames call you God." Word spread quietly through trusted networks. A secret faithful remnant contact, an elder woman with eyes like deep wells, visited under cover of night. She pressed another token into Leon's hand, a small clay tablet inscribed with a single verse from the ancient songs. "The Lord is my strength and my shield." She warned of the Egyptian giants already sailing west to witness the spectacle. "They mock Poseidon as the runt, but they are blind to the true judgment coming. Hold fast." Supplies were gathered, sturdy cloaks, bronze weapons blessed in simple prayer rather than Pharmacia ritual, healing salves from Lysandros that carried no hidden curses, dried meats, and water skins. A small trading vessel, captained by a grizzled neutral merchant who owed Stelios a life debt, agreed to carry them westward. The price was high, half their prize money from the local arena, plus a promise of future favor if they survived. On the eve of departure, Leon walked the rocky shore alone one final time. The sea lapped gently at his feet, innocent for now. He invoked Kyon with the lightest touch. Blue flames licked along his forearms, granting just enough strength to leap onto a high boulder. From there he tested the wings, massive constructs of living flame sprouting from his shoulder blades. They beat once, twice, lifting him in a controlled glide across the cove before he extinguished them. The power felt clean in that moment, pure potential. But already the scars glowed faintly on his skin, luminous tributaries reaching toward his elbows. Whispers slithered at the edge of hearing. "Rule, not serve. Claim the throne. Become legend." He gripped the olive branch token until it bit into his palm. The pure warmth returned, pushing back the hunger. "Not my will," he breathed into the wind. "Yours." Dawn on the day of sailing broke gray and heavy, as though the sky itself mourned. The small vessel bobbed at the stone quay, single mast, patched sail, oars stacked neatly. The crew of 8 hardened sailors eyed the bloodline warriors with a mix of awe and unease. Stelios's massive frame required extra reinforcement of the deck planks. Pyrrhon was ordered to keep his flames banked or risk burning the ship to the waterline. Leon stood at the prow as the lines were cast off, his teammates arrayed behind him, Stelios like a living bulwark, Lysandros with his satchel secured, Pyrrhon's red hair whipping in the salt wind, Boreas already coaxing favorable breezes into the sail. The village had gathered at a respectful distance, families, friends, a few veiled remnant faithful, whose silent prayers Leon could almost feel. As the ship pulled away from the quay, a single voice rose from the crowd. An old man of the line of Seth, white-bearded and bent, lifted his hands. "Go with the blessing of the Creator. Let not the watchers prevail. Judgment comes, but mercy for the obedient." The cry was taken up softly by others. Not a roar, not spectacle. A quiet, defiant hope. Leon raised his hand in farewell, the olive branch token pressed against his heart. Kyon rumbled faintly in the blood covenant, amused and hungry. "The sea awaits, pup," Atlantis calls. "Let us see whose will proves stronger." The sail billowed as Boreas's aromancy filled it. The ship cut westward through the wine-dark waves, Tanaju shrinking behind them. Ahead lay the great green, vast and unforgiving. Beyond it, the 10 rings of corruption, 10 Nephilim kings, Poseidon himself. And somewhere in the hidden dimensions, the fallen watchers stirred, sensing new pieces moving on the board they had set in motion centuries earlier. Leon closed his eyes, feeling the salt spray on his face. The blue flames beneath his skin remained dormant, for now. But the call burned brighter than any watcher's gift. The fall of Atlantis had begun, not with trumpets or armies, but with 5 men in a small boat, carrying an olive branch and a divine command into the heart of darkness. All flesh is grass. The grass withers, but the word of the Creator endures forever. The voyage stretched across days that felt like weeks. The small ship creaked and groaned under the weight of its unusual passengers. By the second dawn at sea, the crew had grown accustomed to the strange rhythms of their bloodline charges. Stelios spent hours at the oars when the wind failed, his massive arms pulling with tireless strength that left the sailors muttering about goof blessings. Lysandros brewed simple remedies for seasickness, his powders calming stomachs without the mind-fracturing side effects of stronger pharmacia. Pyrrhon kept the cook fire steady, his controlled flames preventing the need for dangerous open braziers. Boreas maintained a steady tailwind, though each invocation brought a dry cough that left dark flecks on his lips. Leon stood often at the prow, eyes fixed on the western horizon. At night, when the stars wheeled overhead in patterns older than Adam, he prayed. The olive branch token never left his person. Sometimes he felt the Creator's presence, not in grand visions, but in quiet assurance, a warmth that countered Kyon's growing impatience. One evening, as the sun bled crimson into the sea, a storm gathered unbidden. Dark clouds boiled across the sky, lightning cracked in the distance. Gigamancy, or natural fury? Boreas strained to hold the winds, his face pale. "Something fights me," he gasped between coughs. "The air itself resists." Pyrrhon's flames sputtered as rain lashed the deck. Stelios lashed ropes tighter around the mast. Lysandros moved among the crew, distributing quick elixirs to steady nerves. Leon felt Kyon surge forward eagerly. "Let me lift you above the waves, pup. Wings of flame, strength to command the storm itself. Why cling to a silent god when power waits?" The temptation clawed at him. His forearms itched with blue fire. The scars glowed brighter in the lightning flashes. For a heartbeat, he nearly yielded, imagining himself soaring above the tempest, blue flames carving a path through the clouds. Instead, he gripped the railing and shouted over the wind, "Creator, if this is the path you have set, calm the waters or give us strength to endure." The storm did not cease immediately. Rain hammered like judgment. Waves crashed over the gunwales. But in the heart of it, a strange peace descended on Leon. He moved among his brothers, steadying them with words rather than power. Stelios's heavy bones found new purchase. Lysandros's fractured mind cleared long enough to mix a stabilizing draft. Pyrrhon's inner heat dried wet ropes. Boreas's breath, though pained, held the sail true. When the storm broke at last, a rainbow arched across the clearing sky, faint but unmistakable. The crew fell to their knees, some weeping. Even the hardened sailors whispered of signs. Lysandros approached Leon later as stars reappeared. "That was no coincidence, my friend. The Creator answers. But mark this. Every time you refuse Kyon, the Watcher grows. Resentful. I feel it in the hidden layers. The Covenants do not like being denied." Leon nodded, flexing his glowing scars. "Then let him resent. I will not trade obedience for ease." The days that followed brought other trials. A pod of massive sea creatures, perhaps twisted by ancient aquamancy, circled the ship one twilight. Their eyes glowed with unnatural intelligence. One breached, revealing barnacle-encrusted scales and a maw large enough to swallow a man. Stelios stood ready with his club. Pyrrhon readied fire, but Leon sensed the true threat was spiritual. He prayed aloud, reciting the ancient songs the remnant elder had taught him. The creatures circled once more, then dove deep, as though repelled by something they could not name. On the final approach to the Western Isles, Atlantis appeared first as a smudge on the horizon. Then, as they drew nearer, its terrible glory unfolded. 10 concentric rings rose from the sea like a crown forged in hubris. Marble walls gleamed. Gold accents caught the sun. Even from miles away, the distant roar of arenas carried on the wind. Cheers, screams, the crackle of Mansi. The Egyptian Black Fleet was already anchored in the outer harbors. Colossal figures moved upon the decks, Nephilim giants whose presence pressed against reality itself. Leon spotted crystal growths sparking with lightning, a crocodile-jawed horror, a being with multifaceted eyes. They had come to mock and to feast. Leon's team gathered at the rail as the ship made for the designated landing in Ring 10's outer port. The air grew thick with incense, blood, and the metallic tang of power. "This is it," Leon said, voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "We enter as one of 8 teams in Ring 7. We fight through the bracket. We claim the throne. And step by step, we bring the Creator's judgment upon this place." Stelios clapped a heavy hand on his shoulder. "Together." Lysandros adjusted his satchel. "With cunning." Pyrrhon grinned, flames dancing. "With fire." Boreas nodded, wind stirring. "With purpose." As the ship docked amid the chaos of the outermost ring, warriors arriving from every bloodline, merchants hawking death amulets, priests leading sacrificial chains, Leon touched the olive branch token one last time. The battle of the rings awaited. The corruption of Atlantis pressed close, hungry to claim them all. But 5 men from Tanaju carried a light the darkness could not comprehend. And far above, unseen by watchers or Nephilim, the Creator watched. The faithful remnant prayed. The flood drew nearer. All flesh is grass, the grass withers, but the word of the Creator endures forever. This has been an unabridged audio production of Before the Flood, The Fall of Atlantis, Chapter 5, The Olive Branch Token, by Matson. All rights reserved by Matt Matson, LLC. Copyright Matt Matson, LLC 2026. If you enjoyed this production, please like, share, and subscribe. Available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Follow the author at Matt Matson for updates. Links in the description.